right. Ellie, we're ready when you are, sweetheart.
I'm just gonna take a quick sip of water. It's not dry. Alright. Why I'm nervous? Like, we already did this. I already know you guys. Okay. Alright. There's nothing that grinds my gears more than a slow driver when I have somewhere to go. A slow driver can cause a series of unfortunate events like making you late to your next destination or causing a jam up on the highway. Regardless the scenario, I'm here to tell you why slow drivers annoy me, and I'm sure they annoy you too. I'm annoyed by people who drive slowly because it makes me late for work, it can cause accidents, and it creates lots of traffic. Like many people, I have to be at work by 8:45 for my 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift, which tends to run late. My commute shouldn't be more than a 15-minute ride, but usually that easily turns into a 25 to 30-minute commute when I end up stuck behind a slow driver. Slow drivers can make you late for work if you aren't able to get around them safely, and that can quickly get you off to a rough start before you begin your day, especially for someone like me who is so schedule oriented. Once I'm late for work, it feels like my entire day will be off and my entire day will be spent trying to make up for the lost time being stuck behind a slow driver. To add on to your already stressful morning, there's nothing more annoying than being late for work and being penalized for it by your managers when it's out of your control. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about a slow driver, especially if there isn't a passing lane, but to just go with the flow. When a driver is making you late, it can cause some drivers to become frustrated and get road rage. And with road rage comes irrational thinking. When a driver is not being level headed, it can cause accidents, especially when you're in a rush and a slow driver is making you late for your destination and your estimated arrival time. Depending on the lane you're in, it can be easy or hard to pass a slow driver and get around them. Regardless, it can still be unsafe. For example, in South Carolina, interesting legislation just passed into law. If a driver is in the far left lane and driving too slowly, he or she can be ticketed. They not only recognized how driving slow affects the traffic in highly populated areas and highways and lower the chances of accidents, but it also promotes a good flow of traffic. When a driver is going below the speed limit and everyone else is going with the flow of traffic, this causes last minute braking, swerving, and quick lane switching, which are all factors that play into accidents. Lawyers even advise their clients to go with the flow of traffic because driving in the left lane, except to pass, can create a dangerous situation like a traffic backup. A few slow cars can even lead to a traffic jam, especially if two cars are moving equally slow and blocking both lanes of traffic. Nobody wants to build up on the highway or even in their neighborhood, which is why slow drivers should be required to signal that they will be going below the speed limit with their hazards so that you can see from afar and begin to move over accordingly. Unless you work at 5 a.m. in the morning, I'm sure you've encountered the occasional slow morning driver. When you haven't had your morning coffee, you might even be compelled to scream at them through your windshield like me. Regardless, if someone wants to drive slow, they should stay off main roads or maybe drive with their hazards so people are aware and they can pass them peacefully and safely. When you run into a slow driver next time, remember this speech and take a deep breath. Pass them respectfully and peacefully, and remember, if everyone is in the fast lane, then we're all just going slow. I'm done. Okay, I have to go pee, so I'll be right back.
All right. That's something that you should not do. Exit like that because somebody may have questions for you. So try not to do that. Leave like Ellie just did. I understand she said she had to go to the bathroom, but you should try to do stuff like that before you have your speech, right? Okay. Okay, Joshua. Okay, so I want everybody to please turn on your cameras when people are presenting their speeches so they can see you. And remember, it's a requirement in this class. Okay. Joshua, you are next.
Okay. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
We're ready for you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I can imagine that many of you have different types of pet peeves. Whether it's slow drivers or people chewing food or gum with their mouths open, there are several pet peeves in the world. One of my biggest personal pet peeves are people that are too prideful. There are many times in life where we have to work with others. Some people are open minded and goal oriented, but there are those who have a problem admitting that they're wrong. Sometimes one person with an overwhelming amount of pride can make life, work, school, or anything that requires teamwork or help from others a lot more difficult. Pride is like a double edged knife. It can be good because it gives many of us confidence and boosts our self esteem, but it can also be bad. Have you ever heard the saying called keep your pride in check? The reason why that saying is used is because if we allow pride to consume us or keep it out of check, it could damage our relationships with classmates, coworkers, and family. According to an article called Out of Check Pride Will Overwhelm Us, a British writer called C.S. Lewis points out that a proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you're looking down, you can't see something that's above you. It's difficult to share ideas with people that have their prides out of check, or give advice to a loved one that doesn't accept your advice. One may think that pride is something that one can work around, but there are many times where it's near impossible. And again, I quote, pride causes us to focus solely on being better than the person next to us instead of concentrating on being the best we can be. If you're like me, a goal oriented person who doesn't care what it takes or what new ideas others can give you, then maybe prideful people can be one of your pet peeves too. Personally, I grew up with my grandfather, and one thing about older people is that they think less of you because of your age. When I would go landscaping with my grandpa, he would always tell me that I'm doing things wrong. Everything had to be his way of doing things, which I respected, but as I got older and gained more experience, I found shortcuts to doing work fast and efficiently. As I tried to share my ideas with my grandpa, he wasn't having it. I could feel that I hurt his pride whenever I corrected him a few times. Working with my grandpa is always a pain. He's so prideful to the point where we would argue about small things, and it would get to the point where he would just tell me to stay home. Having to deal with his pride at work was terrible, but even at home, when no matter what I was doing, whether it's cooking, cleaning, or even doing laundry, he would always have something to say, like as if everything he knew were right. People with too much bad pride ruin your morale and work ethic. The world is where it is today because, for the most part, we share ideas all the time. We're taught to be empathetic at school. At home, it may be different. It can burn you out when you have prideful parents that won't hear you out. I despise the pride that my grandfather has, but I still love him because he's family. But it is different when it comes to strangers. It's hard to see the good in people when they're too busy being stubborn. Everyone needs help. Everyone should be open minded, but prideful people are a pet peeve of mine that I absolutely despise. It's too difficult to work with them. As someone who used to be very prideful, after going through changes, I learned that my biggest pet peeve is a characteristic that I personally used to have. In my freshman year of college, I had to do a group research project with people who wouldn't consider the ideas of others. Although I was prideful, I was prideful too. I had to put it aside, but others wouldn't do the same. I learned that there's two different types of pride, either good pride or bad pride. According to an article called Good Pride and Bad Pride, the author tells us that good pride, for example, can be your high school graduation, or you're proud of how far you've come. Bad pride tells you that you're better than others and that you don't need anything from them. You're not one of them, but you believe that you're a million times better. Friendship, religion, and family are all damaged by bad pride. Living in this manner, even in part, removes the safety net of other people and results in a collapse. As bad as pride can be, sure, it can affect the individual's life, but it can affect the results that one individual shares with others. It's annoying to work with people who think that they are better than you. Even worse, when you actually have some useful information to give them. It's kind of like you want to help them, but they refuse. The worst part about prideful people is that sometimes the result that you get from a group work also depends from them. Out of check pride clouds people's minds. It can damage relationships and affect teamwork. Pride is something that can be put aside, but people don't see the bigger picture. I'm sure that at least some of us in this class had to work or do a project with people who couldn't be proven wrong, or even some of us live with people like that. It's annoying and inconvenient. Like, how hard can it be to put pride aside and work together? And this is why pride is my pet peeve. Thank you for your time.
You can clap.
I didn't mute it, sorry.
Okay. He can see you. Any questions for either Ellie or Joshua? Ellie, you left so fast, we didn't even get the clap.
I literally I was so nervous. I was holding it that whole time. So I like had to run to the bathroom. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So next time, try to do that before you speak.
I was, but then we were just like sitting in awkward silence. I didn't want to leave, and then someone else went first. I was just like, wait.
Somebody take your space, right? Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So any questions for either person? No? Okay. Thank you both very much. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Oh, that was Gina.
That was Gina. Gina wants to be done.
But Gina wants to be. I think you're not alone.
You just
Bet
let me
the
know when
house on it.
just let me know when you want me to start.
Okay, I will.
Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second.
Okay, we're ready, Regina.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Author Seth Godin once stated, "The secret to being wrong isn't to avoid being wrong.
Oh,
The
hold it. I'm sorry. I hate to do that. Stop you. Okay, now we can see you. We
Can
couldn't
you see me?
you. We
Can you
couldn't
see me?
know.
Your notes are going over the camera.
Okay. How's that?
Better.
Okay. Sorry, Professor.
Okay, no problem. We'll just
All
start
right.
all over. Let me get the time. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Author Seth Godin once stated, "The secret to being wrong isn't to avoid being wrong. The secret is being willing to be wrong. The secret is realizing that wrong isn't fatal." I'm sure many of you have come across someone who cannot admit fault, people who spend more time arguing about being right instead of focusing on the issue at hand. I find it annoying when a person cannot admit fault because they are inconsiderate, narcissistic, and demonstrate lower emotional intelligence. The first reason I find it annoying when a person cannot admit fault is because these individuals are inconsiderate when they spend more time insisting they're right instead of focusing on the task at hand. For example, we had a coding problem at work and the person responsible for doing the job would not accept he made a mistake. We sent the data to the department as requested, but they pushed back and indicated a calculation was incorrect. Instead of looking over the code to find the problem, he spent more time insisting he was right. The time spent on his inability to admit fault almost cost the department in need of the data to miss their deadline. In addition, this would have also resulted negatively on our department. The second reason I find it annoying when a person cannot admit fault is because when a person is more focused on being right and less concerned with the impact and ramifications of the delay, as well as other members of the team, they are being narcissistic. As I stated with the production issue, this was a time-sensitive matter. However, that did not matter to the person responsible for the task. He tried to explain why it was everyone and everything else but him. When you're dealing with individuals who cannot admit fault, it can be draining for all persons involved. This behavior also affects the collaboration and morale within the team. In the article by Krajanic, individuals with histrionic and narcissistic personality disorders have an intrinsic difficulty perceiving and or admitting their shortcomings. And perhaps individuals with similar traits are less likely to endorse their inadequacies. People like this can even go to remarkable lengths, changing facts and convincing themselves of false realities, justify why they are not at fault. The third and final reason I find it annoying when a person cannot admit fault is because to resolve the situation, you must adjust your behavior for a successful outcome. People like this usually suffer from lower emotional intelligence. It's also difficult to work and respect someone who cannot admit fault. Similarly, as stated in the article by McRae, confession of sin is hard because admitting fault means you might be an inferior human being, less capable of self-control than others, and perhaps deep down inside, we all think of ourselves as perfect or close to perfect, and we don't want anyone telling us otherwise. People who think they're always right and have no hesitation expressing that, this behavior can cause interpersonal challenges. To be successful with individuals like this, you must use your own emotional intelligence to achieve your goal by reminding yourself of what your strengths and the ultimate goal are. It's annoying when someone cannot admit fault because people like that cannot admit fault, are inconsiderate, narcissistic, and have lower emotional intelligence. While people can be excellent at their job or even a good friend, when they never admit their faults, this can be draining on the relationship. Unfortunately, it has more to do with one's ego and self-worth when they cannot admit fault and tend to defer the blame to others. As I discussed, I find it annoying with people that cannot admit fault because in life, I have learned that everyone makes mistakes. For one to grow and improve in all aspects of life, one must admit when one is wrong or makes an error. This shows maturity and lets those around you know it's okay to make a mistake. I think author Seth Godin said it best. You can risk being wrong or you can be boring. And who wants to be boring? Thank you for your time.
Yes.
It wants to be boring. Come on.
Corey, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. We're ready.
You're driving down the road after a long day of work and cannot wait to get home and relax. The car in front of you starts drifting between lanes and you notice he's on his phone. You look ahead and see the traffic light turn red and start to slow down. The driver on his phone does not see this change in the light and proceeds to keep going. The driver barely gets through the light before the intersecting traffic takes off. In this scenario, so many different things could have happened, and yet this happens every day. Just not this scenario ends this happy. Not every scenario ends this happy. Distracted drivers on their phone annoys me because it's selfish and endangers other people in your lives, and it is against the law. To start off, people who drive while using their phones are very selfish and is very inconsiderate to other drivers. When you look at your phone while driving, it keeps your eyes off the road and your attention. When this happens, you can miss the speed limit signs, drift in other lanes, or not see an object that is in the road ahead. Missing speed limit signs can cause drivers to drive under the speed limit, forcing other cars to slow down or behind, which is creating traffic. Same applies to drifting out of your lane or not seeing an object ahead, as it makes you almost hit in a car or hard braking to avoid an accident, creating more traffic than almost causing an accident. Selfish drivers should stop. Selfish driving should stop, as driving should be your number one priority when behind the wheel. Secondly, people who use their phone while driving are endangering both other drivers and your lives. The one text or call that you think is more important can cause a fatal accident that can hurt many people. In a journal by the Trauma and Acute Care Surgery on distracted driving, they state more than 30% of drivers admitted that distraction caused an accident severe enough to have them hospitalized. Driver distraction was found to contribute to more than 13% of all crashes and recently accounted for nearly 6,000 deaths per year. An extraordinary amount of accidents occur each year from distracted driving, all from one little distraction that drew the driver's attention somewhere else. This is what driving while on the phone can do to people and what it can cause them to do. Lastly, to talk about driving while using the phone is against the law and punishable. When on the phone while driving a vehicle, it is reckless driving, literally and figuratively, as you will get a ticket and you are putting other people at risk. In the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, the articles state laws restricting driver use of mobile communication devices. They quote, 39 states of the District of Columbia have at least one form of restriction on the use of mobile communication devices in effect. If you do not want trouble, keep the phone down while operating a vehicle, as it keeps you and everybody else safe. In conclusion, people who use their phone while operating a vehicle annoy me because it is selfish to everyone, puts everyone's lives, including their own, in danger, and is against the law. Hopefully this will help spread the word to help keep everyone safe on the roads. Stay focused and keep your eyes on the road.
Who's next? Thank you, Corey.
I can go next, I guess.
Okay. You all have a lot of similar pet peeves. So I guess you're relating these topics very well. Okay, Omar, we're ready.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. Have you ever interacted with someone who always thinks they're right? Or maybe they refuse to admit when they're wrong, or maybe they act like they need to be right, or they're even a little condescending when in an argument? I'm sure we've all had to deal with at least a person like this at least once or twice. The constant need to be right, the lack of respect for the other party, and their overinflated ego are just a few of the many, many reasons as to why I really hate people that think they know everything. For me, This is the worst type of person to be around, let alone get in a disagreement with. And unfortunately, I've had to deal with people like this many times in my life. When someone thinks that they know everything, they tend to have the constant need or desire to be right. When they are faced with an argument or disagreement, it seems as if they care more about being right than they do about the truth or getting down to the bottom of whatever the argument was even about. It doesn't make any sense to me. They just love to be right. They'd rather be right than to find out the true answers. Sometimes they are so obsessed with being right that they will go above and beyond just to prove you wrong. While people think that they know everything are my pet peeve, I do love proving them wrong myself whenever the opportunity presents itself. I enjoy watching them struggle to think of new points and arguments as opposed to just admitting they're wrong. But no, they never do that. They refuse to accept defeat. I've even had to deal with people that will know they're wrong, but will still continue arguing as if they're going to convince me that I'm wrong. That tends to happen when the argument can't be settled by simply just using Google. Sometimes the closest you'll get to them saying they are wrong is technically I wasn't wrong, or technically we're both right. My favorite thing that these annoying people do is when they refuse to be wrong is they'll pull out their phones or start doing pretend research to try to find any tiny piece of information that might prove their point correct. When they don't find anything, then they quietly put their phone away and act like the whole conversation never happened. To top it all off, if the conversation becomes heated, which in my past experience, it usually does with these types of people, they won't apologize for being wrong. As far as I'm concerned, their behavior makes no sense, but there are psychological reasons as to why some people act as if they know everything. According to therapist Carol McBride, PhD, people who always need to be right tend to have fragile egos. When they feel as if their self-image has been threatened, they want to make themselves look bigger or smarter, so they blame others. It's a coping mechanism to deal with insecurity. That being said, I don't really care. In my opinion, that's no excuse nor a valid justification for why they are so overly arrogant that they don't think they can be wrong. Or what's worse, they won't even have the respect to apologize, which brings me to my next point. When arguing with a person that thinks they know everything, they usually show a lack of respect towards you in one way or another. A lot of times you won't even know there's a lack of respect there. They simply just don't respect your opinion enough and do not feel that you can be right. Other times there is blatant disrespect, such as when the know-it-all starts to mock you, or if they are older than you, they might even start to be a little condescending, as if your knowledge is inferior. This type of person is extremely disrespectful because they're usually not good listeners. If they feel that their opinion is right, they might completely ignore your points altogether, leaving the entire argument pointless because then it's only a one-sided conversation. They might also talk over you, preventing you from getting your points across. If they are good listeners, they probably aren't listening to comprehend or understand your argument, but instead they're listening to rebut and find flaws in your argument to prove themselves right. Lack of respect is probably my greatest complaint about these people that think they know everything. Even if you're 100% certain you are right, there's no need to be disrespectful in any way. Sometimes I feel like there's a lack of respect because they are so arrogant that they do not feel that anyone can challenge, or at least the party that is not credible enough in their opinion. I apologize. My dad was calling. Is not credible enough in their opinion, which honestly stems from more disrespect because who are you to feel that my opinion is not credible enough to challenge yours? This stems from my final grievance with these people that think they know everything, their overinflated ego. When someone thinks that they are always right, they almost always have an overinflated ego. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being confident in yourself and your opinions, but when that confidence makes you feel as if you cannot be wrong or above being challenged or corrected, it is no longer confidence, it is arrogance. No one is perfect, therefore no one is right all the time. No one wants to be around someone that thinks they or their opinion is superior to everyone around them. It is a toxic trait that disrupts peace and leads to unhealthy relationships. Honestly, an overinflated ego may be the root cause as to why they feel they know everything in the first place. They could have a hard time accepting being wrong because their ego won't allow it. That would also explain as to why they tend to lack respect in many situations. Their ego prevents them from even looking at someone else's opinion from an unbiased point of view. And finally, their inflated ego is definitely the reason why they would feel that someone is not worthy enough to challenge their opinion. People with overinflated egos are already borderline narcissists. You couple that with any of my previous complaints, and you have someone that people probably do not like being around very much. There are many reasons to dislike someone who thinks they know everything, but my three main points for why they're my pet peeve are because they feel that they have to be right and they can never be wrong. They are often disrespectful when faced with a disagreement. And lastly, because they have overinflated egos that prevent them from accepting defeat and cause them to feel that they are superior to others. According to Mel Schwartz, LCSW with Psychology Today, one of the most prevalent and damaging themes in our culture is the need to be right. There's no room for any of these behaviors when trying to live a happy life with healthy relationships, but possessing more than one of these qualities, in my personal opinion, is asking to live a very lonely life.
Now that was confidence and enthusiasm. Okay. And if nothing else, Omar, I think we all were like, yeah, well, yeah, he's passionate about that. Yeah, well, you got a point there. Right? I see the heads nodding.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for, because I didn't really, like, I was mad nervous. So I was like, well, I gotta at least try to actually look like I really, really hate these type of people.
Yeah, we believe you. I think we're convinced. Okay. And I think Ellie showed a lot of enthusiasm too. So right now, Omar, you leading in that enthusiasm. Okay. All right, very good. I like that. Okay. See, because as I told you before, sometimes like people might be daydreaming, they might have another thought, moving on to something else, but you're grabbing them back, you're gaining them, you're keeping them there. Okay. And even if they didn't totally understand exactly everything that you were saying, you did win them over with that part of it. Okay. Who's next?
I can go next.
Billy. Yes. That topic was share it with you, Billy. Okay. Eager to hear this one, Billy.
Are we ready?
Yeah. No, hold on.
Yep.
Movie talkers. Okay, we're ready.
The trailers are over. You're in your seat. You've got your popcorn in hand, and you're ready to watch the new Martin Scorsese movie. Next thing you know, some guy 2 rows behind you is shouting at his friend, "Hey, Mikey, when's the last time you watched Taxi Driver?" We've all experienced people who talk during movies, and we all know just how annoying they are. People who talk during movies are inconsiderate of others who are trying to watch the movie. And how can these people not follow simple rules shown before basically every single movie? Another reason these people who talk during movies are annoying is because they act pretentious over other viewers. People who talk during movies are annoying because they can't follow simple rules and are inconsiderate as well as pretentious over others. Well, I was talking fast. One annoying thing all people who talk during movies have in common is they don't know how to follow simple rules. When you're at home, it's an unspoken rule between family and friends that you don't talk during the movie. You watch the movie and you don't talk. And when you're out to the theaters, there is literally a warning before every single movie that says, turn your phone off, don't chew loudly, and be quiet. That's it. So it leads you to wonder if these people can't follow these rules as simple as not talking during a movie, what other sort of rules can't they follow in society? Therefore, people who talk during movies are annoying because they can't follow rules. People who talk during movies are inconsiderate of others trying to watch the movie. In the scholarly journal, Comparative Analysis of Film and TV Audience Environment and Audience Psychology, pardon my pronunciation of this name, Zhaona Zhu states, film and television is a modern mass media. Although the development of the times and the advancement of technology have greatly shortened the space for human cultural exchanges, human beings have thousands of years of incomprehensible relationship with this rehabilitated land. By this statement, I believe Zhu means that even though our studies between how people react to movies and the audience that are watching movies may be new, our studies of people in society have been going on for forever. And with those studies, we know that people are always going to be annoying. And therefore, we know that people are going to be annoying when watching movies. In the scholarly journal, Can Movies Enhance Happiness? Ad Bergman states, movies, especially positive psychology movies, speak to that clean spot that is present in all of us, where people escape from their lives into themselves and come out feeling better, stronger, and more willing to take healthy action. This proves that inconsiderate people are truly putting other people's happiness at risk, because these movies can help people find the happiness that they don't see in themselves. And if they don't have the chance to watch these movies because you're too worried about your little conversation that you have to have, then they don't get to have their happiness. So people who talk during movies are inconsiderate because they do not care about other people's wants, only focus on their pointless conversations. And people who act pretentious when watching movies may irk me the most. For example, you're with your friend at the movies and they feel the need to tell you every little detail about the story as the movie is going on. I can watch the movie myself. I don't need you to explain it to me. And a good example of this is Jonathan Sim of Vocal Media once said in an article, "Let me make this clear. You don't need to narrate what's happening on screen because I see it. If I wanted the play-by-play narration, I'd stab both my eyes out with scissors so that I couldn't see anything." People who talk during movies are irritating because they can't follow simple rules, are inconsiderate of others, and act pretentious over others. There's a fine line between commentary and being annoying. If the talking is asked for and you are having serious conversations with your friend and they enjoy talking to you about the movie, then go ahead. And you're on your private time, do that. Whatever, if you're watching a YouTube video about someone talking about the movie, that's okay. If you're at the theaters or you're in a regular setting for watching a movie, just don't talk. That's what the majority of the rule is. Don't talk. That's how it goes. So please don't talk during movies, but however, some people just always have to make the show about them.
I feel you on that one, bro. I feel you.
Worst.
Dude, last week I was at the movies and this person literally was like playing YouTube on their phone during the movie, and everybody at the same time just like spazzed on him. It was so funny.
Like, come on, like, what's that about?
He was like playing barking noises. It was so weird. Feel you.
And then they look at you like, what are you mad about?
Literally.
What's wrong with
Could have
you?
watched the movie.
I think it's like people were like locked up for so long they don't remember like movie theater etiquette.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Okay. Who's next? Four more left. No volunteers? Roxanne, is Roxana, are you ready, Roxana? Since I insist, right?
Yeah, I'm not ready, but I'll do it.
Not ready? Okay, well, we'll come back to
I
you.
mean, it's okay. Thank you. I have severe anxiety for this. So
Okay,
please,
all right, well, if it helps some, we're all in the same boat. You're not alone, Roxanne. Not alone. Okay. Skylar. Ready?
I guess.
Okay.
Um, okay. So, sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
We understand. We understand.
So have you ever been texting someone or writing a post on social media and you're not exactly paying attention to how you're typing? So after you send the message and the only response back you get is that you misspelled a word or use the wrong version of your, and it just shuts down the whole conversation and doesn't really achieve anything but annoy you. So my biggest pet peeve is when someone corrects my spelling or grammar because they're being rude. They understood what I was trying to say in the first place, and I have a learning disability. So to start off, people that constantly correct others on spelling and grammar mistakes are pretty rude. Usually the only reason they correct people is to seem smarter or to make the person who made the mistake seem stupid or uneducated. Most people who correct others' language do not keep in mind that some people do not have English as their first language, or that some people have learning disabilities that make it really hard to remember spelling rules and grammar rules. So when people correct others for their spelling and grammar, it's a lot like attacking them on something they can't change. An article titled "Spell Check, Can Correcting Someone's Grammar Go Too Far?" They mention how there's a difference between teaching and attacking somebody. Basically, by correcting someone's grammar, you might think you're teaching them something, but in reality, you're just really attacking them on something they can't help. Most of the time, when people correct me, they understand what I was trying to say from the beginning. Me using the wrong form of there didn't hindrance the person's understanding of my sentence. Also, slang and abbreviations have been more common on both the internet and in the real world. If you can understand what people are saying in their posts and conversations that use slang and abbreviations, you can understand a couple misspellings or grammar mistakes. Now, I mentioned before about people with learning disabilities being a big target for people correcting spelling and grammar. So I'm dyslexic, and because of this, I have a very hard time with spelling and remembering and understanding certain grammar rules. I've been getting corrected on these issues most of my life, and never once has it actually helped me outside of a school setting. Basically, if the teacher is not the one correcting me, then I don't want to hear it. When people correct my grammar and spelling in casual conversation, it makes me feel bad about something I can't control. And trust me, I've been told the differences between your, and your hundreds of times. I do not need to be reminded again because of a text message I sent with the wrong one being used. As I've explained previously, people who correct grammar and spelling mistakes are one of my biggest pet peeves because they have no consideration for the person they're correcting. They can understand what the person is saying perfectly fine and is just correcting them to be condescending, and I myself have a learning disability and know how hard it is to correct somebody. Nope. Know how hard it is to have correct spelling and grammar at all times. So all these factors go into the idea that correcting people on their language is inappropriate and could be taken as rude. So next time you think about correcting someone on their spelling mistakes and grammar, please take the time to understand why they might have made the mistakes and mind your own business. That's it.
I like that opening part about it just ruining the whole conversation. Like you said that you're online and someone just that's all they say. They just correct the spelling of something like, okay, cool, thanks. Nice.
Yeah. It just kind of shuts down the whole thing. It doesn't add anything.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
I like at the end when you said mind your own business. The people who are always correcting people are not gonna like that speech, Skylar. But you certainly did relate it well to the audience. Okay. Who is next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Okay. So when do I just start now?
1 second, let me find you.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready, Tess.
Okay. When it comes to pet peeves, they come in many different ways. You know, how people get annoyed by sounds, scenarios, other people's actions, all that jazz. One of the biggest pet peeves that I have is food textures. Just how some foods will be either too crunchy, crispy, liquidy, you know, just stuff like that. And that's just because of sensory issues. When what is sensory issues? It's a hypersensitivity to foods, physical feeling, smell, just like the 5 senses of food. So just so a few examples could like I'm messing up. Thanks. This usually is for people who have ADHD or autism, because we have like an oversensitivity to like certain things such as like clothing and tags, fabrics, or like overwhelming noises and areas, just stuff like that. I found this from Megan, I can't say her name right, Boitana. There's a specific category for issues with food, sensory food aversion. It's often why it's difficult for a person to process sensory aspects of eating. When eating, you are exposed to a numerous amount of sensory input, from visual appearance, smell, temperature, taste, and textures. Eating is a demanding experience for a sensory perspective. From my personal experience, I'm more into cold drinks. So like with hot drinks, I won't really drink them or like them. Especially like if it's a type of thing where it's like you put hot into cold in like a really fast way, because the taste will just change way too fast for me and I won't like it very much. I also dislike when food flavors are kind of mixed. So like an example could be like crunchy peanut butter. I hate crunchy peanut butter because you cannot have smooth with crunch, because the crunchy just makes me instantly disgusted. Same with coconuts. Like coconut flavored items are good, but when you add coconut flakes, that's disgusting. Like, no. The sudden texture change will make me want to just not want to eat it anymore. That also goes for like just wet foods. So like if a like I remember back in high school, whenever we had our burgers, it would be too soggy to a point that the burger would melt away. And I would be like, that's not for me. I cannot eat. My phone's falling over. I'm so sorry. I cannot eat wet things. This also goes for like appearances of food. Like for sushi, I look at sushi, yes, it looks pretty, but the idea of let's say like a uncooked fish is not something that I would be interested in. And seeing an item that I see and I'm like, okay, I won't like this. And if I try it and I'm like, yes, I do not like this. This happens often with fruits, where it's just like, I see it or like I smell it or something and I'm just like, yeah, I won't like this. And I eat it and I'm like, yeah, I do not like this. It happens often with me. This is why it's always hard for me to try new things, because depending on how it looks, feels, smells, and all that jazz, it really affects me and I just really can't eat it. But yeah, pet peeves come in many different ways for people. Mine is just food and how certain food taste, feel, smell, etc. But that's okay. That's just my problem that I have to deal with. Yeah. So I'm just known to be a picky eater. That's all I have. I'm sorry. If anyone has any questions, you can ask me. Like, just ask away.
10 out of 10.
Really? 10 out of 10? Are y'all sure?
Like that with Jello.
Yeah, Jello's weird.
Right? It has like
it's
such
kind of
a weird.
It's kind of funny because Skylar over there. Have you ever tried boba tea?
I don't like it because of the balls.
You kidding me? Oh my god, I love boba tea. But when I go with Skylar, she's like, yeah, I get the tea. I don't get the boba. Yeah. But yeah, she will go get Dunkin's the little bubble balls with the tea, with the ice, there's like lemonades and stuff. But I don't like the bubble balls because they explode in your mouth and juice comes out, and I'm like, that's disgusting. And it feels like, oh, I forgot to add, some foods feel like things that shouldn't feel like. So like example, Dunkin's bubble balls, when I eat it and the juice explodes and all that's left is like the candy skin, I think of like human skin. It's weird, but that's why I don't like it, because I'm like, this feels like skin flakes or something.
Okay.
It's weird. So, because like food will taste like other items that I think about, like,
yeah.
Can I ask how you feel about eggs?
It depends on the egg. So like I like eggs when they're only hard. So if it's like a wet egg, I can't eat it. I don't like the wetness on me. Like
Whip and common Casbury. Eggs are so
gross. Tess, has there ever been a time when you thought you wouldn't like it based on some of those sensory
issues,
signals that you had?
No, I don't think I ever had a time where it's like, yeah, this food I wouldn't like, but I ate it, and if I was like, yeah, I like this. No, I don't think it was ever a time where I had that type of thing.
Is it just the texture, or is it the taste?
Mostly the textures, but
flavor.
It comes with everything. Like sometimes the flavors too, but it's mostly everything. It's like a combination of everything. Mostly textures though.
Okay, well, I have a food issue as well, where I don't like for my foods to touch.
Oh yeah, I feel that. With a lot of foods, I don't like touching them either. Especially when it's like, because for me, I like sweet corn. So like my mom will make sweet corn macaroni, barbecue chicken, and that's probably most of the time. And it's like I will have them separate because mixing sweet corn with macaroni is not good for me. But my mom be like, "Oh my god, mix it! It's so good." And I'm like, "No, it's such a weird combination of flavors coming together. I like it separate."
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, who would like to go next?
I think it's just me left.
Is it just Roxana? Yes, you're going next. Okay, we're ready, Roxana.
Okay. So when you see a glass filled to the midpoint, do you see a glass half full or half empty? We're familiar with the concept that says that an optimist sees a glass half full while a pessimist sees it half empty. But then there's a completely different viewpoint that doesn't see any of that. They notice the cracked glass or the not cold enough water or the tap water that's not filtered. This person is known as the chronic complainer, the person that finds something to complain about with anything and everything. Being around a chronic complainer aggravates my soul because they find the negative in everything. They're never satisfied and they ruin the mood of everyone around them. To start, when you're around a complainer, you have to be prepared that nothing good is going to come of the day, because they'll be ready to find something negative, whether with whatever the day brings. It doesn't matter what you decide to do, they'll complain about it. It could be the weather, the food, the amount of walking, or just the people around them. There's nothing that they can't complain about. For example, I attended a party with a friend that was a complainer, and as soon as we walked through the door, it's it's too hot, followed by the music's too loud. So from that moment, I knew that it wasn't going to be a pleasant night. The complainer, they don't see anything wrong with their actions. They just know that they're going to voice their displeasement no matter who it aggravates. So that leads to finding ways to try to accommodate a complainer, but nothing satisfied them. Uh, the American Nurse the American Nurse Today article states that complainers do not want a solution to the problem. They just want to complain. They just want to complain about anything and everything possible to complain about. So nothing's going to be good enough for them. So regardless of trying to make them happy. So back to the friend at the party, we moved to a less crowded area where it's cooler and away from people and the music's not as loud. But now a new complaint arises and it's the drinks are watered down. So guess what? There's a new complaint, because proving once again that no matter what accommodations or what you try to do, they're gonna find something to complain about. And then that just ruins the mood for everything, for everyone, and everyone's now pissed off, everyone's in a bad mood. No one wants to be around the toxic energy. The person doesn't find joy in life. And then surrounding yourself with complainers will eventually lead you to be a complainer as well. And it'll lead you to the same behavior, and it's not enjoyable. Uh, Back to the front of the party, you're all trying to have a good time. And with the person complaining, guess what? Now everybody just wants to go home. Nobody wants to be there. Everybody would rather not be around this person. They suck the joy out of everything, and it just doesn't, it's not a pleasant experience. So being around a chronic complainer is aggravating because it just brings down the mood, doesn't satisfy. Nothing satisfies them, and they find something negative in everything. Chronic complainers make you reevaluate the people you surround yourself with and debate whether the toxic energy is worth being around. It helps you appreciate the smaller things in life. In a book by Robin Kowalski, it's called Complaining, Teasing, and Other Annoying Behavior. It states that complaining has increased in the 1900s, and moving forward, people find more things to complain about. So it just proves that people are surrounded by people that just are unsatisfied with things, and it becomes contagious. So you realize that there's no point in wasting time complaining about things. You have to learn to appreciate the things in life, even if it's not perfect. You learn to appreciate life, even the smallest things, and not complain so much.
That toxic energy will ruin the night.
Every time.
My boyfriend's sister is a chronic complainer. I literally hate her.
My sister is too.
Walks in a
So
room
I understand.
and finds 1,000 things to complain about. She's so annoying.
I feel like chronic
Yeah.
complainers are also besties with nitpickers because, oh my God, nitpickers are the worst.
I mean,
They go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
God forgive me, I love my grandmother, but I don't take her out to eat because I know how she is.
Because no one could beat grandma's food. That's it. That's why.
I guess. I mean,
Okay, that was good. That was good. Good. I enjoyed it. And Roxana, I really couldn't tell that you were nervous and had a lot of anxiety. How about you, your other classmate?
You did a great job.
I think she did a great job. She was poised. She did not seem nervous at all.
You wore it well. You did it well. I didn't know. I would, had you not told us, I wouldn't know. And now that leads me to a tip that don't tell people that whatever your issue is. Okay, so don't tell them that you're nervous or, oh, I just messed up, or I don't say anything like that. If they catch on and figure it out, okay, but don't tell them. Okay, because everybody might not notice. And then you've now laid that idea in their minds. And then they're going to be watching for it and not really paying attention to what you're saying. So be mindful of that. Keep all of that information to yourself. Don't tell people that you made a mistake or you're nervous or you're not prepared or anything like that. Okay. Just a few comments. Most of you did pretty well in starting right in with your attention getting material. So that's good. A lot of you did take that bit of advice that I gave you to do that. So that was good. And a lot of you did really paint the picture for us in our minds where you were going. Now, some of us kind of revealed the topic more than others. So you have to be mindful of that. We want to gain the attention, draw them in, but we don't want to give it all away with the first sentence. So be mindful of that as well. But you all did a pretty good job with descriptions of what you were actually talking about. Now, most of you did also cite your sources. I just want to make you mindful that if the source is not well known, then you should give us a little bit of information about the source. So, if you say, oh, I read an article by Susie Smith, okay, tell us how Susie Smith is an expert on this subject matter. You might say she's a renowned psychologist at the University of Delaware. Okay, so be mindful of that. Both of you stayed within the time limit, which is good, which means that you did practice. So that's good. And I know it's hard with the camera to know where exactly your eye is going to the camera. So, sometimes you have to try to practice with your camera. And if you ever want to do that, and particularly for your informative speeches, if you want to, again, just let me know and I can set you up in the Collaborate and you can go in there and practice to see how where you're looking in the camera. How do you look? You can also take a video of yourself when you're talking, and just put your camera there and take a picture of yourself when you're talking, and actually turn it around so that you'll be able to see where's your eye on screen. Yeah, and just watch the rate of delivery. Oh, and one thing, Omar had an interruption with his cell phone. So, and he was like on a real good roll there, and then his phone rang. So be certain that you mitigate any things like that, like, turning off your cell phone, so that you don't get interrupted, because you don't want to interrupt your flow when you're doing a speech. As well, it will interrupt not only will your thoughts be interrupted, but the audience, their thoughts will be interrupted as well. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep them, because it's easy for the audience to stray away. Okay, that's very, very good. Let's see. It's 7:30. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you go early tonight because I think you did a good job with your speeches, and that's kind of enough for you. However, we never did get to that one assignment on the cheating spouses assignment. Remember that? And I brought you back by mistake, but then I just let you go. Okay, so what I did want to do is I wanted to give you the answers to it. So if you wanted to go back and look at it and review it again and try to, put the ideas together or see what I'm talking about with the ideas, you can do that. It's not required. It's not something that you have to do. But I did want to give you the answer so that you can kind of understand where we were going with that, with the development. But I think that you guys are on the right track with your development of your speeches. But I'll make, personal comments to each person. I'm get it back. So I don't know if you all are aware that when I send back your assignments, if it's something if I graded it right on the paper, which all the speeches will be like that, some of the homework, then the PDF, I will upload it. So you can go in there and look at it I don't know if everybody is aware that they can look at documents in there. Okay, so be aware of that. And then for your homework that I don't write on, I just make all the comments in there. So you should go in there and look at the comments. All right, so basically what that assignment was is I wanted to put you in a group and I wanted you to try to work as a group to develop your ideas. Pick out the things that were similar and try to develop an outline of a speech based on the facts that you were given in those articles. So basically, the central idea of that speech, well, of course, it's a speech to inform. And remember, I told you that any speech can be any type of speech, but basically because we were working on informative speeches, I wanted you to stick with the informative development of this specific speech. All right, so there were basically 4 signs. So the specific purpose is to inform my audience of the 4 signs your spouse may be cheating. Okay. Then the central idea is something along these lines. The 4 signs that your spouse may be cheating are changes in their use of technology, personal appearance, sex life, and communication. Okay, those were the 4 signs basically that were in those articles. The 4 commonalities that you could pull out, the main points that you could pull out from all of those articles were those 4 signs. And then from there, you could make subpoints on those. All right, so all right, so, and then for your closing remarks, there was a closing remark that went something along the lines of, it's too bad that some people don't find their suitable soulmate until after they're married. Okay, kind of like sums that all up of what we're talking about. All right, so you can take a look at it if you want and try to figure it out. You don't have to, it's not a requirement. Okay, are there any questions about anything, comments? Congratulations, you all did pretty good tonight. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a little housekeeping of what we'll be doing. All right, so next week we're in-person class next week. And we're going to cover persuasion. And we're also going to try to get to special occasion. If we don't get to it, then we will have to have class on the 16th. But if we are able to get through both of those lectures, then I'll give you that 16th day to work on your speeches. Okay. So we'll see how we get along with that next week. So in person next week for everyone. And then that will probably, if we don't have our class, because this class doesn't meet Thanksgiving week. Your Tuesday class is canceled for the week. So I think something like Thursday class becomes Tuesday's class. But usually your teachers will let you know. But for our class, you don't have class Thanksgiving week. Okay, so technically kind of you got 2 weeks. But you might want to celebrate Thanksgiving week. So hopefully you can get it done a little early. If you do get it done and you want to submit it early, you can. There's no penalty for submitting it early. And I would like to get it early because then I can look at it ahead of time too. So it's up to you, when you want to do it. But I wouldn't really want to be working that weekend on a speech, Thanksgiving weekend. So hopefully you can get it done before that time. All right, and then after that, Thanksgiving week, we're right back and we're gonna go right into our speeches, informative speeches. And then the next week will be special occasion speeches, which are my favorite speeches. And I really do like teaching students about special occasion speeches. They're not in the book, but it's something that you probably might give at some point in your life. You might give a speech like that. You might give a speech of thanks. You might give a toast or something at a wedding for a best friend. There may be some occasion, there probably will be some occasion in your life where you're saying a few words to an audience. So that's why I like to do those speeches, because it's more practical towards your daily life. All right. And then the next week after the special occasion speech is your final exam. And check the weekly agendas for the dates on your discussion boards. Okay, now remember, we need everyone to participate. Now, probably by the end of the week, I'll have the video up and you all can start going in and commenting on your classmates' speeches. Now, please be detailed. Don't just say good speech or, nice job, or don't just say that. Tell the person where you thought that they were their strongest and where you thought they could have used some improvement and why. Like, maybe you might have some tips or suggestions for someone. But I'm sure everyone is interested to know how did your classmates think you did, right? So we want to, give some meaningful feedback to your classmates. And don't worry about, you don't have to be mean about anything, but be honest about what you're saying, because it's really only going to help the person. I promise, Skylar, it's only going to, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the rest of the semester. Okay. Any questions about anything? The second exam or final exam is not cumulative. So it will start from, I believe that's lecture 7, steps to speech making, till the end of the semester. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? Thank you everyone for being prepared. I appreciate that. And there being no further business, you are excused for the night and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Have a good one. Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.